There is a new star in Texas as George Pickkins joins the Dallas Cowboys after 3 years in Pittsburgh. With the addition of Pickkins to CeeDee Lamb, Dallas now has two legitimate wide receivers on offense. The Pickkins trade moved the Cowboys' odds to make the playoffs slightly, according to ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Before the trade, their odds were plus 225. Now, they're plus 200 post-trade. Mina Kimes and Damian Woody join us on the show. Mina, has Dallas closed the gap with Washington and Philly in the NFC East?
I love coming on at the end of the show just to make Stephen A. mad because I don't believe that they've closed the gap with Philly. I still have them at the top of the NFC East, but I do have them closing the gap with the Washington Commanders. Let me lay this out for you. Just going team by team, they now have a better pass catching group, one of the best pass catcher duos in the entire NFL. Jay Daniels was better last year, but we're only 2 years removed from Dak Prescott being one of the three best quarterbacks in football. I'll give the Commanders the edge with the run game, about even on offensive line. On the other side of the ball, the Cowboys have a better pass rush, and they have a better secondary. When you lay it out and look at the rosters, especially considering the improvements on offense for Dallas, it's really hard not to see that the Cowboys are not only a playoff team, but have absolutely, in my mind, closed the gap.
Go ahead, Woody.
Yeah.
No, Mina's right. Like if you stack the rosters, the Dallas Cowboys have absolutely closed the gap with the Washington Commanders. I think the biggest difference is Jaden Daniels. We're so caught up into the year he had, and he had an unbelievable year. But I think anyone who watched the Commanders, especially when they played against the Philadelphia Eagles, saw all of the deficiencies that the Commanders have. Obviously, they've addressed some of it with the offensive line, adding to that group. Obviously, bringing Deebo Samuel. We're going to find out how much Deebo Samuel had left in the tank. But there's still a lot left to be desired about the Washington Commanders. Pass rush, secondary, like Mina pointed out. So I really like what the Dallas Cowboys is because, quite honestly, Stephen A., we haven't seen Jerry pull a move like this in quite some time. We've been complaining about Jerry Jones not making a trade or making a big-time move to really show everybody that, you know what, maybe we are all in. And I'm not saying the Dallas Cowboys are going to contend for a Super Bowl, but I do got to give Jerry Jones his props for making a big-time trade.
Well, bravo. It's so touching. I mean, congratulations. They made a move. I mean, listen. After the year they had, anything they did was going to be an upgrade. And I get that. So I understand that with Dak Prescott coming back healthy, acquiring George Pickens, now you got a legitimate number two. Us opposite CeeDee Lamb, I get that part. But it's a couple of things that y'all are missing. One, the Philadelphia Eagles, like we said, even though they've got a lot of turnover, the bottom line, we expect them to be elite. With the Washington Commanders, this kid, Josh Connolly Jr., that they drafted in the first round, we're going to ignore that. We're going to ignore the fact that they acquired Laramie Tunsil. We're going to ignore the fact that they buffered their offensive line. They should protect their quarterback better. They should have improved their running game. And on top of it all, they got a guy on the slide in Deebo Samuel. We're going to ignore that, because the Dallas Cowboys have improved their roster. Did it ever occur to you, Mina? Did it ever occur to you, Woody, that because you got an additional weapon, it will call for the rookie head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, who nobody wanted for a head coaching job, by the way, that he's going to be there? Did it ever occur to y'all that it's going to call for Dak Prescott to throw the football more? And we know what happens when that occurs, especially come playoff time, right? Assuming they get there. The Dallas Cowboys are still playing for third place. But I don't mind what you two are saying, because all it does is raises the hope and expectations of Cowboy fans.
There it is.
Which means they come plummeting down. See, I don't want them to stink in September. I want them to be formidable in September, October, November, and right around Christmas time. They remind us of who they are. All y'all are saying is, just wait. Be patient. They won't let me down. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing.
We're hoping George Pickens comes in and can fill a role that has been missing.
What do you mean hope?
Dallas. The hope.
Why are you hoping for that, Peter?
Not me personally.
Why are you hoping
the
for that?
Cowboys fans. Look,
I mean, you said hope. You said hope. That's what you said. Like you hoping for the Cowboys. What you hoping for them for?
Trust me, I ain't hoping for anything for any of these teams. I'm an objective observer here. I'm just saying they had been missing that one.
Sounded to me like you were hopeful.
That's it.
Sounded to me like you were hopeful. I send a little cowboy love there. We don't allow that on this show. We don't allow that on this show.
Go New York, go
Go, New York, go!
Sorry. Just to take it away here.
NFL, Mike McCarthy's run as Cowboys head coach ended shortly after last season. His offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, promoted to take his place. Schottenheimer's first head coaching job, and this weekend the Cowboys going through rookie minicamp with their rookie head coach, Dallas coming off a 7-10 season. We are joined now by ESPN Cowboys reporter Todd Archer. Todd, as the Cowboys rookies sort of help usher in this new era, what is Brian Schottenheimer saying about just getting on the field and actually doing a little coaching with this team?
Yeah, David, think about it, right? He's hired in January, has to put a coaching staff together. Then there's free agency. Last week we have the draft, and this is really the first time he's actually coached. And I asked him about that today, and he said, man, I just love being on the grass. This is where he kind of loses himself. You're guiding players, connecting with players, teaching them the fundamentals, trying to get them better. And this has been a long time coming for Brian Schottenheimer, a long-time assistant coach. This is his chance, and you could tell today really was maybe the start of the Brian Schottenheimer era, because the full team, they don't get on the field here until a couple of weeks when the OTAs start. Right now it's just 19 rookies, 9 draft picks, 9 undrafted free agents, and 1 tryout guy. So he was looking forward to this, even if he wasn't coaching Dak Prescott or CeeDee Lamb.
Todd, every coach has their own way of doing things. Mike McCarthy had his way. What are some tangible changes you're seeing with Schottenheimer right now and how he does things?
Yeah, I'll come up with one word on the field, and that was energy. The assistant coaches were buzzing, throwing passes to even Tyler Booker, their offensive lineman. He's catching passes as he's stretching and getting ready for practice. And then Brian Schottenheimer, he's all over the place. It's Where's Waldo. It's 1 minute with the linebackers, and then the DBs, the running backs, and the receivers. He's going to wear a path out on the field with how much walking around that he's going to do, even as the play caller and head coach. And then there was a big change in the locker room as well, where you saw a bunch of guys change sides of the room in different spots. And he was saying that there's a method to his madness. Now, he wouldn't get into the madness or the method, but he wants to put different guys that are around different players. And he mentioned at the first team meeting, when the players got together, they all sat in their normal seats. He goes, everybody get up and sit somewhere else. It's a new season. It's a new team. He wants to really generate the 2025 Cowboys. 2 guys next to each other here in the locker room now, Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons. And he said, you want your 2 best players next to each other because they're going to compete all day long.
All right. Interesting approach, interesting philosophy. The Cowboys wrap up rookie minicamp Sunday. They begin OTAs on May 9th.
Back to our big story. George Pickkins has been acquired by the Dallas Cowboys in a trade with the Steelers for a 3rd-round pick as well as a pick swap. The defending champs, by the way, that is those Eagles, have 2 games against the Cowboys, who have the 5th hardest schedule in the NFL this season. 10 games on the Cowboys schedule are against teams that made the playoffs last season. Outside the division, they'll play the NFC North and AFC West, including a home game against the Chiefs and on the road in Detroit. Let's bring in Sam Archer. So the Cowboys, they finished 3rd in this division this past year. They watched the top 2 teams face off in the NFC Championship game. Looking at their opponents this year, what's your biggest concern facing the Cowboys this season?
The fact that they got to go and play the Chiefs and the Chargers. Those are 2 of my biggest concerns. And add to that, the Lions and the Vikings and the Bears. Oh, my. You're playing the divisions that have some of the best teams in the NFL. And so the fact that Kansas City is on your schedule, that's a game that you know you're going to have to, it's going to be a challenge, going to be a struggle. The Chargers with Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, you know that they're finding their identity this season, a tough-nosed football team. So I think those teams, along with the Lions and the Vikings, will be extremely challenging, as well as the Eagles twice a year for the Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys, by the way, 2-7 at home last season, 3rd worst home record in the NFL, something you don't see, of course, down in Fort Worth for them going and losing those games. As for the Steelers, they have the 10th hardest schedule this season based on their opponent's record in 2024. They play the entire AFC East and NFC North, including home games against the Bills, Packers, and Vikings. Let's bring back Louis Riddick here. So the Steelers, they finished 3rd in their division last year. Do you see any path where they're better than the 3rd best team in the AFC North, featuring the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Browns?
Not again, Kev, we talked about it earlier. Not as they're presently constructed, especially with the situation at quarterback. Look, they can't go blow for blow with the Ravens right now. They just can't. They're not going to be able to go blow for blow with the Bengals, assuming that defensively, Al Golden is able to get that defense back on track because Burrow will have it on track, as far as the offense is concerned. And look, man, Cleveland has improved their football team. Cleveland has a better quarterback situation. So you're looking at maybe they're fighting Cleveland to stay out of the cellar. And then when you look at they're going to play the AFC East and the NFC North, those are two pretty tough divisions, especially at the very top of the East and throughout the North in the NFC. Pittsburgh's up against it, man. This could be one of those seasons where we're sitting back and going, how the heck did this happen?
Yeah, and they got the Chargers and Seahawks and Colts on the schedule. Keep in mind here, 1988. 1988 is the last time the Steelers finished in last place in their division. It's been just a week out from the 2025 NFL schedule release, so to gear you up, let's look back at the best games from the 2024 season to kick it off, where it all began in Week 1, an AFC battle between the Ravens and the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs.
The stage electric. Lamar Jackson, reigning MVP. Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP.
Doesn't get any better than this.
Give it to Henry, right side, powers his way in. Derrick Henry, touchdown number 1 as a Raven.
Xavier Worthy at the 20, 15 of the Ravens, 10, 5, touchdown!
Running to the right, running out of room, lobs it near sideline. Isaiah Lakely has it at the 30, sidesteps the tackler, he's to the 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! And the Ravens are right back in the game.
Mahomes will throw it right sideline, wide open, with the catch, Xavier Worthy, touchdown! Kansas City!
Hello. It could come down to this. Needing a touchdown and an extra point to get to overtime.
Spinning around is Jackson. He will throw it late at the back of the end zone, and the pass is caught. It's a touchdown by Isaiah Likely. Oh, goodness, it is toe. Go out of bounds.
The runner's toe hit out of bounds. It's an incomplete pass. The game is over. Kansas City has won.
I believe it's a 2 down. I thought it was a touchdown, but still think it's a touchdown.
He's got to wear white cleats next time. That's my advice for him.
What a way to start the season last year in September, and this season's NFL schedule release show is happening next Wednesday night, 8 Eastern on ESPN2. Our crew will take you through each team's schedule and break down the biggest matchups in the annual 2-hour special. We'll reveal the entire Monday Night Football schedule and find out who the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles are playing. Again, our big story of the day, George Pickens on the move as the Cowboys acquired the Steelers wide receiver. And you take a look here at what he has done. He's tied with A.J. Brown for the most catches on passes thrown, 25 or more yards in the last 3 seasons. Dak Prescott has always done well with the deep ball and had his most touchdowns on 25-yard throws the last time he played a full season in 2023. Earlier on Get Up, Dan Orlovsky said this about them boys.
George Pickens, contract year. Yes, he's not a perfect type of player, but his ability to go down the field and make plays with an offensive line that I think is going to be one of the better ones in the NFL at the back end of the season, this squarely puts the Cowboys back into we are a playoff contending football team.
Playoff contending, Lewis. Do you agree with Dan that the Pickens addition now makes Dallas a playoff contender?
Oh, playoff contender? Sure. I mean, are they going to be someone who could potentially be in the fight for a wild card spot? Yeah, I guess potentially. I mean, that's provided that, maybe someone else in the NFC East like Washington or Philadelphia has a bad type of season, which the only way I could really see that happening is if they have some kind of injury issue to where, they just are not able to work at full strength. And that's not to be disrespectful to Dallas, but look, I just don't know what Dallas is going to be, in particular on the defensive side of the ball, and particularly right down the middle. Have they solved their issues against physical football teams that challenge them up front? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and I'm playoff contending, I understand, but I don't know how George Pickens, there's some highs and there's some lows, right? George Pickens will win you some games. There are also times where he may cost you some games by not doing the things you expect him to do.
There you go.
And so those are the concerns for me when it comes to Dallas Cowboys and playoff contending. Yes, they may be playoff contending, but how much, the better question is, will George Pickens show up, the best of George Pickens, when you need him? That's the question that still needs to be answered for the Dallas Cowboys.
I think, you're looking at the Cowboys a week ago versus the Cowboys now. George Pickens, they needed a better wide receiver number 2 than they had. And he's better than what they had. So as long as he fits in, as long as he does what they need him to do, it makes them better. The Cowboys, when Dak Prescott has had fully healthy seasons, have been a playoff contender pretty consistently and have often won the division. So if you thought the Cowboys were a playoff contender before, obviously you think so now. And if you were worried about it before, this gives you reason to hope. But as long as Dak Prescott is healthy, which to our understanding he's expected to be, and if he gets through the season healthy, then they generally have been a pretty good team during his time there. And Lewis, man, something weird always happens in that NFC East. It's been 21 years since the same team repeated. So I know Kevin doesn't want to hear this, but, you know, somebody like a Dallas could sneak in.
That is Graz's favorite stat. That is Graz's favorite stat.
It's true.
Every single December, he brings it up no matter what. All right, Shefty, jump in.
Well, again, I think when you look at it right now, there are people like Dan who believe that Dallas is a playoff contender even before it acquired George Pickens. The Pittsburgh Steelers today believe that there's addition in subtraction, that they're a better team without George Pickens. And this may be one of those trades that actually helps both teams, where Pittsburgh feels it's better without George Pickens, and the Dallas Cowboys get the best of George Pickens because he's a team that was willing to give up on him in a contract year where he's got millions of dollars at stake. If George Pickens gives the Dallas Cowboys the best possible George Pickens this season, he stands to make millions of dollars. So it's a trade that really could help both teams, and it would elevate Dallas from being a playoff contender, maybe into that mix of that stat that Dan just threw out there, into the mix for the NFC East title, not just contending for a wild card playoff spot.
But I think, listening to you guys all hour, this is a potential boom or bust situation. We've talked about the boom, right?
Yes.
There is bust. There is a bust factor here specifically. Lewis, especially when Mike Tomlin says, I've had enough, let's move on, and you have a rookie head coach in Brian Schottenheimer in Dallas, and we know that's a pressure cooker. How much pressure is on Graz? You want to jump in? How much pressure is on Brian Schottenheimer now as a rookie?
Just saying, you said boom or bust, but the price, I mean, a third-round pick, totally worth it for a 24-year-old receiver with that kind of talent. Boom or bust. If he busts, it's not the end of the world.
Lewis?
But see, here's the thing, though, right? Here's the thing. Pittsburgh has all the information. He's a 24-year-old guy with wonderful talent, and they said, no thank you. What does that tell you? What does that tell? What does Dallas have at their disposal that Mike Tomlin doesn't in order to corral all that talent?
That tells me? That tells me a lot of Jerry Jones news conferences. That's what it tells me.